Good evening, everybody. And I'd like to welcome you to the 2021 kickoff of the Fireside CharLA. My name is Richard Javier Corral, and I'm the Interim Executive Director of the United Latinx Fund. Before we begin tonight's program, we'd like to take a moment of silence to commemorate and celebrate the life of United Latinx Fund board member, Ray Virchis, who recently passed due to complications related to COVID. Throughout his life, Ray was deeply devoted to the advancement of the Latinx community through his activism, fundraising efforts, mentoring youth, voter engagement, advancing policy, and of course, his leadership of ULF, along with a number of other Latinx-based nonprofits. And we created a slideshow in commemoration of Ray's life. And many of the folks that you'll see here in these photos are folks that are actually board members and folks who are actually attending tonight's conversation and commemoration of Ray's life. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the presentation, and then I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you all. If you give me just 10 seconds, I'll go ahead and do that at this time. So one moment. I just wanted to thank everybody for observing that moment of silence so that we could commemorate our friend, our brother, and our leader in our community, Ray Virchis. Ray, thank you so much for everything you did for all of us. Thank you for believing in us and supporting us in so many different ways, and to ensuring the success and the foundation of, frankly, what we're going to talk about tonight. I don't think that there would have been a topic that would have given Ray more joy and more happiness than the topic that we're going to be discussing tonight, which is GOTV and the Latinx community. Tonight's Fireside CharLA is brought to you in partnership with United Latinx Fund and Latino Coalition of Los Angeles. This online event series aims to engage, educate, and advocate on important and timely topics that impact LA's Latinx community during the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as highlighting efforts that empower our community. I'd like to quickly thank our sponsors for tonight's event, Southern California Gas Company, for their commitment to and investment in nonprofits like United Latinx Fund that work to transform, uplift, and improve our community's quality of life. Our program is designed to engage you, our audience. So if you have any questions, please enter your questions in the chat box, and note that everybody's audio and video will be muted until the Q&A. Also, tonight's program is streaming on Facebook Live, Actually, I need to pull up. To access the video, please visit ULF's Facebook page. A link will be provided in the chat box. Elia, if you could be so kind to put a link to ULF's Facebook page in the chat box. And you can host a watch party and invite your friends. Please do that. It does make a difference. People do watch. So Elia, go ahead and post that for us. That would be great. And tonight we have a very special charla that you're not going to want to miss. You're going to hear from LA area Latinos that drove to Georgia to assist with GOTV, as well as local Latinx residents that engage communities in areas such as Dalton, Cedartown, Savannah, and Atlanta. You're going to hear about how they encountered and encouraged Georgia's Latinx to vote with innovative and effective engagement strategies, and how they connected with and educated voters in meaningful ways. So let me begin by introducing our three guests for this evening. Ricardo Mireles, the Executive Director of Academia Avance, Graco Hernandez Valenzuela, an alumni from the University of California, as well as an Academia Avance graduate, Go Avance. And last but not least, we have the lovely Oraika Alexander, who's a community organizer with Georgia Familias Unidas. Let's get right into the conversation with the first question. I'd like to open it up to our esteemed panelists to tell us your story, your personal story, and specifically how your story compelled you to take leadership on Georgia's Latinx community and GOTV. I'd like to start with Oraika. Let me make sure she's unmuted.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's doing great. My personal story is as an Afro-Latina, coming from a diverse and multicultural background, being born in New Jersey around so many different cultures, moving to Georgia and not seeing the same background that I was seeing where I was raised from made me want to participate and be part of informing people in language, in Spanish. My grandma came from the Dominican Republic many years ago, worked at hotels, cleaning hotels, changing beds, had a second job. She would take me with her to Bended to sell prendas door to door. So seeing that and the unity that I grew up in, that's the same thing I want to see in Georgia. I want to see all Spanish speaking people being able to get information that they need to for their voice to be heard, whether they were born here or not, just for their voice to be heard and to be accounted for. And if I have to go out every day and rechat for that, then I will.
Yes. So, I'd like to pass the microphone on to Graco. Graco, can you please share your story and how it inspired your decision to drive across the country during COVID to GOTV and win this Senate race? Tell us about that. Let's make sure you're unmuted. There you go.
Okay, great. Can everyone hear me?
You're good.
Perfect. Okay. So yes, thank you, Richard, for that wonderful, wonderful, beautiful introduction. Like you said, my name is Graco Hernandez Valenzuela, and I, right off the bat, I feel like I have a similar story like Oraika, and my parents are immigrants from Mexico. And so, I just as a result of that, myself and the community I grew up in had very close ties to these kinds of issues. And so when I went to college, I made it a priority to verse myself and become more educated on the issues of immigration, socioeconomic challenges, environmental justice, all that kind of thing, because these are things that directly impact our community. And a big way that we can go about in helping our community is to let them know that they can be empowered by using their vote as their voice. The big thing, and then we'll talk about it as we talk about the Georgia GOTV efforts, but a big push, a big slogan that was used was "Tu voto es tu voz." And so when I graduated from college this year, actually, I had the wonderful opportunity to work with a CHIRLA, which is the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights in Los Angeles. I had the opportunity to work for them during the general election to do GOTV phone banking for Latinx voters. And we had the chance to give them any sort of resources to prevent any sort of shenanigans from happening. And as a result of that, that kind of propelled me to look for more of this type of work. And so, you know, Ricardo hit me up the moment we found out that Georgia was going to be the epicenter of American politics for the next 2 months. He hit me up and he said, "Hey, stuff is going down in Georgia. Are you in?" And I said yes, because it was just I feel a natural progression of saying, "Hey, let me affect something on my state level. Now let's try to affect something on a national level." And so, you know, I got in the car with Ricardo. We spent 3 days making the road to Georgia, and you know, the rest is history. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few seconds. But I just do want to thank real quickly Ricardo for inviting me on that trip. I want to thank the other groups like Oraica and Georgia Familias Unidas for having us when we arrived. And again, we'll talk about that more in a second. But I just wanted to thank everyone for that.
Thank you. Incredible story. Ricardo, do you have anything to add to that, or would you like to save your commentary for some of the other questions that are coming up? Let me unmute Ricardo very quickly. Oh, I think Ricardo, unfortunately, has dropped off. I know that, oh no, he's here, he is, hold on. So Ricardo, do you have anything to add, or would you like us to move on?
Yes, well, if you don't mind, I'll put in some comments right now and then come in afterwards. But first off, I'm so happy to be able to be with so many ULF supporters for so long. Helen in particular, who we've served on the board. I was on the board for 12 years, and it was an incredible work that continues and grows. And I feel blessed to have known Ray Virches and have been able to know the impact that he has, and which is the question for us all right now. What is the impact that your life is having on others? Ray had a huge impact on so many people. And so I'm glad that we were able to honor him. But with this COVID, what is the impact you're having? And that was a question that we had at Avance for the students. And mind you, I've known Graco since 2007, right? He was in the 5th grade, and his 2 siblings have gone through our school, and the support that his parents have given the school have been tremendous. But the key question we always used to ask our students is, what are you doing to help? Something's going down. What are you doing to help? And it's in that spirit that, of course, as soon as I call, in fact, it wasn't even a call, it was a text. Graco, I'm going to Georgia. And he responded back, I'm in, let's go. So there's so much, there's always been an urgency for what we need to do. And now COVID is only expanding it, you know, and if people think these are 2 different things, of course, I know, you know, that it's not. COVID is a reflection of our politics. And so the need to go and make change in Georgia was one way of addressing COVID. I'm wearing a shirt that was designed by one of the key leaders that we were working with and that we're going to learn about, Maria del Rosario Palacios. And what she got the statement from a priest in a town there in Forest Park in Georgia. And this priest gave a sermon when we were there that I'll just share with you the key point. He told us that if you dream alone, well, you're just dreaming and you're dreaming alone. But if we dream together, that's what becomes the new reality, right? And so I'm happy that we can all be here together tonight to learn about how a dream of some key leaders in Georgia became a reality, and how now we're going to be able to join that for what needs to happen next. So with that, Richard, let's get into what actually happened over there.
Excellent, excellent. So in terms of the follow-up question, in comparison to previous election cycles, what are the unique and defining characteristics and challenges faced by Georgia's Latinx electorate? Oraika.
Hi again, everyone. In comparison to past and previous elections, what I did notice in the elections, many Latinx voters did not have access to information in Spanish. So providing the language information, how to vote in Spanish, how to fill out a ballot in Spanish. We even had Loteria Mexicana and Facebook in Spanish. These are things that they could culturally understand and compare and then implement it while they go to vote, or when they're going to cast a vote, or even their children. Let's say there's so many people that were not of age being able to vote, and that was another difference. Now we had young people able to vote and be the voice for their parents, which previously they were not able to. Also informing the voters of who is running for office, who and what they're bringing to the table, where they're from, what's their background. Having us, people like Graco, like Ricardo, like Maria Palacios, like Todd, all going to small communities, taco places, restaurants, going to the plaza, going to La Vaquita, which is like where people go and buy stuff for cheap. Our face is the same face that they see every day. People like us coming out and telling them to vote and giving them information in Spanish and English. And even if they were not able to vote, we said, if you can't vote, be the voice out there, spread the word out there. Hearing it from us in our language means something. It makes a difference. It makes an enormous difference. There's the millennials coming out and voting and having the little brothers vote and teaching them how to vote, and even teaching parents listening to the information in Spanish, in language, so they could go ahead and educate their children. That was something that Georgia did not have before. Being able to have documents in Spanish to read, that's a big step for Georgia. We did not have that. We have that now. And thankfully for all these grass organizations and coalitions coming together, providing and keep work and providing all the information and working hard day and night. I saw it with my own eyes. These people did not sleep getting out the vote. And it made a difference. It made a humongous difference. It states here that some information in the 2018 runoff, there was 17,000 total votes from the Latinx community. Just early votes in the 2020 runoff, 73,000 people voted. That's an enormous difference. That means there's so many people still that we need to tap into and let them know and provide them and give them information to keep on voting. It's just not this Senate runoff. It's every election. Every time we need to go out to vote, we need to show up and vote.
I love the fact that, especially here in California, what you did for me right now is you really helped to reiterate some of the basics that I think in many ways either we've lost sight of or maybe we don't think are as impactful, but it really is those well-documented and well-established relationship strategies that are effective. They work in Georgia and they work here as well. I wanted Graco to also chime in on his experience, specifically around both challenges as well as unique characteristics of this electorate. And maybe Graco, you could also compare to Los Angeles as well.
So what I do want to say right off the bat with my experience, doing GOTV in Georgia, and this is not specifically Latinx centered, but I'll get to that in just a second, is that when I initially arrived and when I first started GOTVing, first off, just to do like a small little brag, I hit hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these doors. I was there I started working with these groups since December 5th. And since then, I was just continuously canvassing and hitting as many doors, talking to as many people as I could. And one of the things that I noticed was that a lot of these people were a little over it. And what I mean by that is that they were continuously pressured and hit by all these organizations, not only during this runoff, but also during the primary. And I think especially in this runoff, because there were multiple groups targeting all these specific groups, specifically Latinx groups. And a lot of them, most of them were very kind and very accepting and very much wanted to talk about it. But I do want to hit upon the few that were not very responsive. And I think a big reason for that is that they just weren't used to this kind of push. And I think that's very telling in itself, because to them, it seemed like, oh, now you want my vote. Oh, now that it's important, and now that all these things are up in the air, now you want my vote. And so a lot of them, as many of them that were kind and generous and very accepting to the kind of issues that we wanted to talk about and the message that we wanted to push about simply doing GOTV, many of them were also kind of disillusioned, and with good reason. Not a lot of people may not know that not only on the Georgia ballot for 2021 was it the Senate runoff election, but another seat was put up for the Public Service Commissioner, and it was between two individuals, Daniel Blackman and Bubba McDonald. And one of the big issues that people would talk about, and they would say it in a joking kind of boisterous manner, but in a sense, you could tell that this was something that we're really talking about. And it was like, how is this going to affect my wallet? And I think a lot of people, didn't really hear the message about the Public Service Commissioner, because I feel that for many people, there were either in two categories. Either they knew what side they were already going to vote for, or they had no idea. And these were the types of people that we wanted to hit. These were the types of people that either thought that we were still pushing for the general election, because we did find a few people who were like, I voted already. And this was like early in December, which clearly they couldn't have voted already. And other people who are just like, my vote doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Who cares? And for them, a Senate runoff election or picking a senator, and for even just myself, that kind of idea of voting for this type of person is kind of abstract. Like, you don't really necessarily know what the consequences are going to be for voting for a specific senator. Like, it may seem kind of obvious, but what does that entitle? Like, what does it mean to pick a senator? And for many people who, especially in our community, who are either, working in fields or poultry farm workers or a lot of this big immigrant community, that kind of idea is abstract. But what they do and can understand is their utility bills. And I think that was one of the particular avenues that I tried using when speaking to our Latinx immigrant communities, was that particularly on average, most people in the United States spend about 5% of their 5% of their paycheck on utility bills. But in the case of Georgia, that skyrockets to 18%. And right there, I felt was a tangible way to reach out to people to let them know, hey, tu voto es tu voz. Because for many people, again, either they were disillusioned and felt my vote doesn't matter, or they felt like, oh, now you want to reach out for me when you have something at stake. What's going to happen next time around when it's not as big? Are you going to reach out to me, or do you only need me this time around? But, putting it into context like that, I felt I got a bigger connection with people, especially the kinds of people that were really dismissive.
So Graco, I think you bring up a really good point, particularly around, oh, now you want my vote. Oh, now
Right.
you're interested in me. Ricardo, I'd like to pivot to you because you have a very good sense of the national landscape. I want you to specifically answer, Ricardo, going forward, how do we address that sentiment that, oh, now I'm important to you? How do we keep that momentum going, and how do we leverage it going forward into the future for future wins?
Thank you, Richard. And I have a good point, but you need to enable my video because they
of
can't see
course.
my Coraje shirt.
Oh, you got it. You got it, man. Go ahead.
Let's try. It's still got me disabled.
No, we'll get you. We'll get you. Don't worry. Keep talking.
Okay, so look, here's the point. I think the outside perspective that I was bringing to this, and coming from a big Latino state like California, Los Angeles in particular, but also being a Tejano and knowing how the politics play in Texas, and having lived in New York and understanding the Latino politics there, Georgia got caught by surprise. The Latino community there was, well, we're growing, we're important, we're going to try to get out, but they were ignored. And one super important statistic, and some of you might have saw this, is that in the general election, of all the Latinos in the country, 47, let's just say half of the Latinos that voted were not contacted by any of the candidates. Right now, so there's lots of ways to interpret that, but one is what we've always said. They just assumed, they just took us for granted. Oh, it's okay. They're going to vote for us, right? Huge mistake. Obviously, we saw what that cost in Florida and Texas. But given that half of the voters were ignored, of course, in a state with such a long history of being red, Georgia was written off. And then Latino vote is just so small there. Big mistake. Now that goes against what was, or working against that was the awesome efforts of Stacey Abrams. Everyone has seen what she did over the news, right? And she ignored all that and did it. And this is why Georgia was very much on the ground. It wasn't the people that from the national parties. All that came in later. And in some ways it came in kind of late. I mean, Graco and I were there before Thanksgiving, and there was no evidence of the national presence that Latinos were going to put in. But trust me, a couple after, with a week to go to the election, they were all tripping over themselves. All the celebrities were all elbowing themselves. I want to be on TV, and it was super excited when Los Tigres del Norte did their event, and we had America Ferrer and Eva Longoria and all these amazing stars coming to help. But it was a little bit kind of like, again, now you're coming, pero qué bueno. But my point is this, is that Georgia was always, like the kid who runs in the race and just like, yeah, I'm gonna jog along, the high school runner. Hey, this ain't high school running. This is Olympic level sprinting, and you need to get in there. And suddenly the cameras was on Georgia, like, you're in the lead, you're up front, you can win the medal on this. And they were a little bit surprised, like, wait, us? Really? And so the national spotlight on Georgia, and especially on the Latinos, in my opinion, caught them off guard. Well, they're ready for the next one, right? And let's be clear, this race was the setup for Stacey Abrams for governor. And the Latino vote is not going to be ignored anymore. And they doubled. The turnout this time around is double what the Latino vote was in 2016 for Georgia, and it can easily double again through the work that Georgia Familias Unidas is doing, and the many ground level organizations, especially now that the national organizations, and let's put us in there, like United Latino Fund, can say, hey, you need to put some attention on these groups, like Georgia Familias Unidas in Northeast Georgia.
Well said. I love when people are given an opportunity, especially our community, to see themselves in a different light, right? And to see themselves with renewed value and with an ability to make an impact. And what I take away from a lot of the stories that you've shared tonight is really, in many ways, it seems like you all were sort of holding up a mirror to the community and allowing them to see themselves in a different light, in a different way, even despite the initial lack of maybe attention, media, celebrities, the things that we're very much accustomed to on this side of the world. Even without all of that, you were still able to flip the script and show people a new aspect, a new side of themselves. To that end, what I wanted to do is I wanted to share a PowerPoint of different images that Oraika had shared with me. And what I'll do is I'll show the presentation, but then I want you to consider and answer one of the questions that we'd like to discuss tonight, which is particularly around, messaging, right? And a lot of these pictures are going to resonate with you and give you probably ideas and make you have some memories and stories about what occurred and how it occurred and the different sort of engagement strategies and stories that you were able to cultivate and develop. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll start with Oraika, and just kind of tell us when you see these images on the screen, just share with us what goes through your mind, and what were you thinking and experiencing when this happened, Oraika.
Okay. So when we saw people coming out with their children and opening up their doors, they were actually surprised, like Graco said. Uh, they care about us. They're coming and knocking on our doors, and we showed them, and we told them, we spoke with them. We told them this is what it means when we're out here to represent. Is not just you. It's the future that we're building, the future that our children will have. What do we want to provide for the kids of the future? Look at all of us, all different skin tones, all different backgrounds, from everywhere. We're coming together in unity. And like the good saying said, we took all of our lemons and we made lemonade. So I want to go ahead and say thank you to all the people that were with us that day, which was Social Change, Sublime Tacos, Maria Palacios, Galeo Organization, um, Black Men Built Atlanta, CARE in Atlanta provided their facility for us to prepare PPEs. All these individuals took the little bit of push and knowledge and people that they knew and gathered it together. And the outcome was amazing, 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 the outcome. But just the children, just giving them things and giving posters for them to draw and even to color in. They've never had that before. They've never seen that before. To me, that was odd because I grew up in a city where, there goes Maribel's daughter. Everybody knows who she is and everybody cares for everybody. And that's what I want to see for the future of Georgia. I want us to be all one. I want us to come in unity. I want us, all the grassroots organizations, to come in and unite. But in order for this to work, it's what Stacey Abrams did. She planned, she went ahead and she made a plan, she implemented and she executed the plan. She took the funds and she gave them to the Latinx organizations, to the Black organizations, to get that vote out. We need to this to continue. It cannot stop, because then it's like Graco said, it's going to be another couple of years and say, so you only want me for a vote? No, we want you to be part of the community. This is how you implement and you make people feel part of the community. They have to care where they live. They have to care where their kids go to school. They have to care the teachers that are in their children's school. It's for our future. Everything that we do is building the future for a better, better, better future.
Thank you, Oraika. Graco, let me make sure that you're unmuted. What are your thoughts when you see these images of you and Ricardo and Oraika engage with community? What is the story that these images tell?
Right off the bat, it's not about me, it's about us. And it's always been that way, and it has to be that way, and it has to continue to be that way. One thing that I want to make evidently clear and super emphasize, because I cannot cannot say this enough, is that thank you to all the organizations that were in Georgia, that have been there, ground zero, that have been there for years, because otherwise myself and Ricardo and everybody else that came out of state to help out would have shown up to do nothing, because they were the people creating that groundwork, that ground infrastructure to create those contacts and then the people that are there to say, hey, you know, you can count on me. Because if those organizations weren't there, I just want to emphasizing it, we would have done nothing. And true to that, you know, when me and Ricardo first arrived, for the first week and a half to 2 weeks, we were kind of just looking for work and looking for something to do. And it felt kind of discouraging. But, you know, we found Maria de Rosario Palacios, we found Oraica, we found Michelle Sanchez, we found Jorge Bello, we found all these fantastic people to do this work. And it has really opened my eyes to the fact that, you know, we need to continue to push this hard, because otherwise whatever hope and passion was sparked in the people that we hit will disappear. Whatever seeds that we have planted in this fantastic time will disappear like that, because then they'll begin to think that they only needed us for that one time. And that's not true. What I think was it's glorious and wonderful that we succeeded this time around, but I think more than that, what is important are these seeds that we've planted in the community. If the Senate hadn't flipped, and if we had if that hadn't happened, I think the biggest takeaway would be these seeds that we have planted, so that we can continue to support and let our community know that we are here for you. We want you. We want to engage you. We want you to know that we did not forget you. Well, and I think, well, on my final note, and then I'll move on. I think you know, the way that starts is, again, these ground organizations that are there and promote, you know, their local, you know, local government, their local politicians, because that's how it starts and that's how it gets bigger. And, you know, I want to encourage, and I'm going to do my best to do this too, that we don't forget, that we continue to come back now that it's not as important and the fate of the nation is at hand, that we continue to reach out to Georgia and other Latinx groups all over the country and let them know, hey, you are not alone.
So I wanted to show this video and allow Ricardo an opportunity to comment on this video. And please remember, if you have questions, put it in the chat box, because we're about to enter the Q&A segment of tonight's conversation. So I'm unmuting Ricardo, and just check out this video.
So I'll talk over it. I mean, the first thing you're going to note is the tacos, right? And so we were able to get a lot of attention. It didn't matter what party people were voting for. They all came for the tacos, and we also had tamales. So that's one thing. But this gets to a point I want to make, that you'll see in the pictures show it, but trust me, and Graco pointed to this was a very diverse group. This was a Black and brown effort, right? And I'm so glad that Oraica was able to, as an Afro-Latina, is able to talk with us today. But I mean, the reality of Georgia is the history of the African Americans, but they needed the Latinos to turn out with them. And then let's also not forget the Asian Americans that are in Georgia, another growing population, and the Muslims and all these other groups that all came out to make the change. And it was together that we did it. So that's a key point. A lot of the folks that were working with us, Graco, and were colleagues with Graco and Oraica, was a big team that came down from Chicago, about 24 folks that came down from Chicago from the social change organization. Really, really awesome. Todd and his, and there was a lot of youth. He brought a lot of youth down. And so that was really awesome. And another evidence of just how much came down to Georgia to make this happen. And then the last thing is what Graco was pointing to, work that had been done way before us, Maria and Georgia Familias Unidas and so many groups. And the highlight for me of the whole event there, of the whole month that I was there, was we went to here, and this picture gets to it. We went to a poultry plant, and we went several times to a poultry plant, in the morning, in the dark, sometimes in the rain. These are people that were making $7.25 an hour. The companies do not give them masks, do not give them PPE. So we were giving them masks. And I chatted with one gentleman who was there, and in classic paisano format, me dijo, no, pues fíjate, yo no puedo votar. And it seemed like, really defeatist, but he put a big pause in there, and then he just let it go with all the coraje. Pero mis tres hijos sí pueden votar y van a votar. And that's when I knew, okay, we're going to win. We're going to win. This is a community. These votes are going to come from so out of left field. The other side doesn't even know these people exist, but they do exist, and they've been there, and they're the ones making the freaking McNuggets for their kids. And he said it with such coraje. That's why we won.
There it is. There it is. And so I want to open it up to the Q&A. I'm glad that we're ending on this particular photo, because it actually reminds me of a next step. And United Latinx Fund developed a media partnership with LA Taco, which is a local online publication that centers Latinx food, culture, art, and all of that in relationship to politics from time to time. And I wanted to be able to connect this story to LA Taco. And specifically, I thought that the angle of the polleros and PPE and GOTV all coming together, because these people, let's be honest, oftentimes they're distributing their food to the taqueros here in Los Angeles. Why? Because it's cheap chicken, and of course they want to turn a profit. So there's a direct relationship here between the polleros, the taqueros here in LA, and your GOTV strategies and COVID. All of that whole arc, that whole story. And what's the common denominator? Food and our community, our cultura, right? And so I'm working with our communications manager, Sam Nunez, to pitch that story to LA Tacos. So fingers crossed. All right, everybody, I did make sure that you are able to unmute yourself. You're able also to activate your videos. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to open it up for some questions.
Well, there's one question that just came in. So let me get right to that one right away, Richard.
Okay.
And so the question was, okay, so we got this one. Who's there to work with the next round of candidates? Okay. There is a really strong presence by an organization, Galeo, right? Georgia Latino elected officials, which is kind of like the sister organization of NALEO, right? And we all know NALEO and the history that they have here in Los Angeles and California and across the country. Galeo has this amazing leadership training program, and they've had it, I think, for like 10 years, right? The Galeo leadership training. And we kept coming across these people. Oh yeah, I know you from that training. I know you from that training. And so there is a organization, to the person who put in the chat, that is doing that leadership preparation. And I'll just share one story. Maria del Palacio, who moved to Georgia as a young girl, and mind you, she moved from Southern California. There's this really strong connection between Los Angeles and Atlanta. So many of the Latinos from El Salvador and from Mexico, they first landed in LA, and then they said, hey man, these prices are está ridículo. So they ended up in Atlanta. So that's a whole nother story. And there's several PhD dissertations, I think, that got to focus on that one. But the story I'm trying to tell you is how Maria got to Georgia as a young woman in 2009. In 2017, became a U.S. citizen. In 2018, ran for state office, right? And this is a direct result of her work with Galeo. Mind you, the current governor and his team booted her off the ballot on a technicality. It was ridiculous, just absolute ridiculous. More example of the voter suppression, right? Because they were afraid of her. They knew, hey, people are going to vote for this woman. But there is, so the short answer to the chat question is there is several organizations, Galeo being one, also the network of Stacey Abrams organization. They are working to get leaders to come up.
Excellent.
I want to go ahead and emphasize on Ricardo's. I came from Galeo. That's how I met Maria. I'm a 2020 cohort. Galeo is doing groundworking, extreme information and knowledgeable information to all the people that participate in their programs. You guys should follow them on Instagram at Galeo. They're the ones that came up with the Loteria. They're the ones that came up with providing information for people in Spanish, like what polls to go to in Spanish, how to look up your polls and online. They literally put on screen how to fill out an absentee ballot in English and Spanish. I learned so much from the program. I'm a 2020 cohort student. It's unbelievable what I learned and the people that I met. I'm so thankful for meeting Maria de Palacio. Jennifer Citano, we need to give her a big ups. This girl's doing hard work for Galeo. She is an immigrant. She's a DACA, and she's still standing out here and being the voice for all undocumented and immigrant people here in Georgia. Thank you, Jennifer Cetano, so much.
Thank you for the shout out. And then Graco, is there any question on the chat that you want to take on?
Yeah, actually on that point, we were talking about Loteria. Someone mentioned to expand a little bit more on the Loteria exercise. I believe this was the brainchild of Maria de Rosario Palacios. Don't quote me, I believe it is, but the one that they used specifically, I believe was commissioned by the DPG, and it has some of the card examples. I have it pulled up right here, is like el voto por correo. And so when these cards would be
show the picture.
Yeah, turn your phone so we can see it.
Is that, can y'all see it?
Yeah, we can see
this
it.
is a total, it's a Lalo Alcaraz style of Loteria.
Yeah, so I would just keep it like stuff like that. And then when the card would be pulled up, she would then give more information about how to do said thing. Like, for example, el voto de correo. She would give information of like, oh, when you should go do that, how to ask for your ballot, all that good stuff. And then they had stuff like la mascarilla de 2012. I mean, 20. And she would just say how important these kinds of things were. And for every sort of thing, just, you know, talk about why its importance was important. She even has one for Las Polleras, because that's how big this kind of community is. And if you look up GAFU, Georgia Familias Unidas, it started as a way to help out these pollera farm workers and get them the PPE and the food distribution that they needed to just simply do their $7.15 job, because they weren't, again, being provided the simple, you know, PPE that they needed to survive, which is crazy. And so dumb. So I highly encourage you to look up Georgia Familias Unidas, look them up, and honestly, like, help them out in any sort of shape, way, form, or how, because that's important, how important I believe the work is right now. Like Ricardo was saying, we'd have people up at 4 a.m. just trying to pass out PPE for free. Like, all this stuff we were giving them for free. We were giving them in bags, and I made a lot of these bags. We were giving them in 20 masks per 20 of these like medical masks per bag. a hand sanitizer pen, a cloth mask that says "Si se puede" that I don't have on me, but I'll find it and show it to you. It's really cool. And then information about GOTV, just how to go out and vote and register to vote and all that good stuff.
So, and Richard, if I can use this as a segue for the plug, I mean, we created a GoFundMe page and we invite people to go to it. And Elia, I hope you can put it up. We're directing those funds to Georgia Familias Unidas, to support the work that they're doing, because they're going straight to the la comunidad, straight to the raza, straight to the paisanos, straight to the polleros and the polleras.
Yeah. I want to also emphasize on what Ricardo said. It's these small organizations like Georgia Familias Unidas. They're gathering up just family members and friends and hitting up the streets and giving this information to people. And they're trying to get resources and they don't have. So let's give them the resources that they need so it could continue. It needs to continue. It cannot stop. So we can see the Latino vote emerge like it's supposed to be, like at its best in the next upcoming years. We need for our children to see. I have Dominican and Mexican kids. My kids are half Dominican, half Mexican. So I want them to understand it falls on us to give back to the community. It is we together that can make the change.
And I put up the link to the GoFundMe because I do want to encourage everyone to give to this organization that frankly is in many ways responsible for today's conversation. And Ricardo, did you connect Lalo to Familias Unidas, or was that somebody else?
It was an idea I have. In fact, I just wrote that down, that I think, no, I said that the Loteria idea is like in the Lalo style.
Oh, I thought it was Lalo who did it.
We definitely need to connect him. I know people on this call can reach out to him, and we'll try myself. We need to bring this awesome political art exercise to his attention.
Ricardo, I'm happy to help as well. Lalo's a good friend.
Excellent, excellent. So what I'll do, Elia, is connect you directly to Maria, and if you can put her directly to Lalo.
Perfect.
Graco had something to say?
Yes, there was a question, I think, in the chat that I want to address and bring attention, because I think it's an important one. And it's by Stephanie Castañeda. She says, sorry, I'm trying to word it, but really how to find resources for people to understand / connect the dots on how these higher political roles affect people day-to-day's lives. And I think one way, at least in my experience, I feel like I'm very, still very new to this, but one way I thought seemed to get the most attention and connect with the most people is these like free taco events and free, posada to the polls and giving people food, because I specific to, our community, I feel like that's just a big way that we bond. And if you kind of like hook them in like that, and while you speaking to them, they'll ask like, oh, why are you doing this? And then we can either tell them, we just want to do GOTV, or we want to bring attention to these types. I honestly, just from my experience in this, I really do believe that the way to go about connecting with our community the best is these kind of grassroots efforts. Like we can throw as many rallies as we want, but you won't really connect with anybody at these, not really. And not to say that they don't have a purpose, because they do. They really do. But in a way, I feel to connect most with our community and let them know that they're cared for, and let them know that we are thinking of them are these kinds of things. Because then they'll ask you these burning questions of like, oh, then why the hell, that this thing happened? And if we have people who are more, who are throwing these events and are more part of the community and are a little bit more informed on what it is, they can provide that, as opposed to like a sheet of paper that we go door to door delivering, which again has its purpose in planting these seeds of making people feel that they aren't being left out. I feel like these kind of like going to these different hot spots in the communities, because that's something we did. We hit up, you know, big poppin' like restaurants in the area, or big like we hit up a church one time that a lot of like Latinx groups centered themselves in putting ourselves there and letting them know why we're doing this. I felt was more effective than these kind of leaflets or rallies or any other thing that we had in our arsenal. So
I
that's
wanted to, Graco, this is great because I wanted to, Betty M, if you could please turn on your video, because you had a really good question that kind of relates to what Graco was just talking about. He was talking about how do we counteract the trauma that many of our families have experienced in their home countries, and that produces this perspective that their vote doesn't count. Betty, you want to talk a little bit about that before we get one of our panelists to answer?
Yeah, no, thank you for, I really appreciate everything that you did in your advocacy. I really appreciate it. But I guess in my experience, it's always been that when I've encountered people from El Salvador, you know, where they've had like a civil war and they've had governments that maybe in their perception might not have been the best. And they come with this idea or this perception that, you know, it's corrupt, it's fixed, you know, so we know who's going to win. So what's the point? You know, I've been protesting, you know, when I was in college, and the first, you know, a lot of the comments were, why are you protesting? You know, there's no point. You're probably going to get killed if you do that. It was fear-based oftentimes, you know, so, you know, I know that's not accurate and that's not going to happen here, but they didn't know that. And, you know, and I still hear that even now. So I just wanted to kind of get a point of like, how do we move them past that mindset? How do we talk to them so that they understand that, you know, we're in the United States, things work differently, you know, there's policies in place, and, you know, again, I'm not a politician. I'm a mental health worker by trade. So, but again, I see this, and we often talk about these things in sessions. So I just wanted to get your perspective in terms of like, how do we move them from that mindset and not vote from a place of fear, you know?
If you allow me, Richard, so we started to use this line when we were there, and you'll see how in some ways it was a little bit prophetic, but the other side would bring their AK, we brought our DJ and tacos, right? And let me put a couple dimensions on that. First off is that I want to repeat, there's a big connection between the Latinos in Georgia and the Latinos in LA. And there's an opportunity, especially for the United Latinx Fund, and for those of us on this call, they're looking to us. Mind you, they're not looking to Miami. They're not looking to Houston, right? They're not looking to Texas and to a certain part, not so much to New York. They like what they see in LA. And so we need to definitely use that interest. But, you know, it almost seems like we're laughing here about the AKs, but then we saw what happened last week. Right. And it gets to the violence and to the point that you're making. I mean, these are people that are coming where politics was about actual revolution and people shooting at you in these other countries. And not a long time ago. I mean, it's happening right now in Guatemala and Mexico and Chihuahua and El Salvador. And then, that doesn't happen in the US, but then last week happened. True. Right. And there is this fear. So, one way to show them is to win, is to actually win, to actually have results. And so this result, both in November and now in January, lets these people say, no, sí se puede. You can do this, right? And I think we got to be vigilant about this racism that's being released, this toxicity that's being released. Pero no hay mal que por bien no viene. And we did win, and we'll win again.
So it is 6:30, but I just wanted to close with three things. Number one, I wanted to thank all of you, our panelists, and everybody who joined us, our attendees, for helping us to kick off 2021's Fireside CharLA series. This was a this was inspiring. This was energetic. This was uplifting, which is what I was hoping for today's conversation. Coraje, exactly. The, the second thing that I wanted to say is much like when I was young, many decades ago, I was impacted deeply by student activism on university campus around Prop 187 and Prop 209. And what that invested and planted a seed that you will never forget, you can never turn back. And once you get a taste of victory, it's impossible to erase. And so for me, I feel like that's what happened in Georgia last week, that they got a taste of power, they got a taste of victory, and they'll never forget it. Their families will never forget it. Even if you didn't vote, you'll never forget it. Even if you made your children vote, you will never forget it. It'll never be erased. And the third thing, and I want to end with this, is that I want to thank all of you for implicitly and explicitly celebrating and commemorating the memory of Ray Virtus. This conversation he would have loved. This conversation would have given him so much joy. And I think he would have been extremely proud, not only of the work that you all are doing, but the fact that you won and that you utilized strategies and skills that he himself proposed, advanced, and embraced. So thank you for celebrating Ray, whether it was intentional or unintentional. You all did a beautiful thing, and continue the good work, and we're happy to continue the conversation with you all. Have a blessed night. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and we'll be in touch. Take care. Yes, Georgia. Coraje. Adios.